It shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and be exalted above the hills. And all nations shall flow unto it, and many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. We're continuing the book of Isaiah. We've come to chapter 2. Okay, let's begin. As we have a new thought. Isaiah 2 verse 1. The word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. The book of Isaiah is focused on Judah and Jerusalem, but it has things to say about Israel as well, very important things, because he does prophesy, especially in the first 30-odd chapters, in regards to the Assyrian invasion and the Assyrian captivity, whereas the last 20-odd chapters are focused, from 40 through 66, 26 chapters, are focused on the future from the time that Isaiah lived, from the time of the Assyrian captivity, certainly, but is not as focused on the Assyrian invasion and on, though there is, I don't know if the focus shifts at all, but, the whole book is primarily focused, and obviously this here represents something that Isaiah had to say about Judah and Jerusalem, because a lot of times the prophets, it's not like they sat down and just wrote a book. A lot of times they lived a life, and in the midst of the life, there's things that go on. And so the events that occur, or the prophecies that occur in real time, over time, as opposed to just a big book dump. As far as he didn't come along and go, I got a book here, you guys got to read it. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like in Isaiah's day they were handing his parchment around. Though there could have been portions, I suppose, that had been written up in those times. I don't know. Because a lot of it is very time specific. When when he describes meeting with a particular king and having a particular discussion, well, that event didn't happen before or after that. It happened right then. And I don't know. So verse 2, And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. And he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. So this is a passage that, as a Christian, puts me very mindful of the prophecies concerning the millennium, right? Also, Isaiah prophesies of similar things. The idea that, for example, in 29, they that erred in spirit shall learn doctrine. There's a lot of restoration in Isaiah. Isaiah does not only condemn the goings on of his time, but he also looks forward to a time when the troubles of his generation are gone, and people are living in proper harmony with God, as opposed to in constant conflict with each other and with him. And so, the first thing he says here is, in the last days, in the end of everything, when everything's finished up, that's the idea of the last day. Last days are not of necessity always the end times, though. When they say last days, a lot of times it means the end of this time, like when this is all over. It can have the force of that. Like at the end of all this, in the last days, and he may have in mind with reference to the time he's prophesying about. It can, but also when I see that phrase, I do, think of it in a prophetic sense, and that's not wrong. Some people are, there's very strong disagreement about the idea of the millennium, right? We have strong, because there's such a thing as amillennialism, and then, which means no millennium. So that's a strong disagreement, since there are millennialists who do believe in some sort of millennium. And the millennium is just simply this 1,000-year period mentioned in Revelation. Amillennialists simply don't take it literally. That's the easiest way to state their position as far as that particular passage. It's not that they have a habit of never taking anything literally. It's just that particular thing. They think, no, it's the 1,000-year period is not a specification. It's just a generalization. And I see that, but the idea that there would be no actual time of a millennium, meaning the exact time period, I'm not particularly worried about. It's the things described about the time that I'm most interested in. And does that exist? Do the events, are those also symbolic events? Well, how is that even possible? Well, I've often wondered about like God's white throne judgment. Like, does everyone have to appear physically in front of the throne one at a time? Is there a line? Will you be standing before someone and also after someone? When you start analyzing the details, you think, like, does God really need to do this? And I've always been of the opinion, and this is not a scriptural thing, but just that what makes the most sense to me is that when you come to God for judgment, that you would probably appear alone and also at the same time as everybody else. And the whole thing would be taken, the whole judgment, I expect to take less than a blink of an eye. As far as like God's actual deliberation and in that blink of an eye, everything that needs to be communicated can be communicated. Like, I don't think it has to be drawn out. And I could be wrong. It doesn't have to be this big pomp. I don't imagine like this ceremony. I think a lot of that is earthly imagery and symbolism that we sort of have a tendency to want to read into the actual reality of God. Just like the idea of a throne. Like, not just that it symbolizes dominion, but that it actually has to be a literal metallic jewel-encrusted throne or whatever. Is that really what it has to be? So, I'm of the opinion that, no, these things don't have to be of necessity literally that way. But at the same time, when you get to something like the millennium, and I'm a millennial, I'm a premillennialist, which means I believe that Jesus returns before the millennial time period described. There's such a thing as post-millennialists, and I don't think we've ever come up with mid-millennialists. There's amillennialists, but I'm not an amillennialist. I'm not a dispensationalist, which is usually associated with premillennialism, but I'm not either of those things. But I do think that the existence of passages like Revelation 20, and if you're not familiar with the passage, in Revelation 20 it says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. I think that, because earlier it says, and I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them. No, that's what it says. And I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus, for the testimony of Jesus Christ, which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark in their forehead or in their hands. And they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. See, the idea that we have to live and reign with Christ is the part that gets me. We have to reign with Christ. That is certain. And I suppose we could reign over nothing, but, the millennial kingdom is what I've always thought. and if you disagree, please don't be angry. It's like not particularly something that we have to be that upset about. But whether you believe in the millennium specifically or not, this is a prophecy that is to be fulfilled. Now, amillennialists, I think they would look at it as the church fulfilling this, or maybe that this is just the return of Christ at the end of end of history. And that when he returns, all these things are fulfilled. And that's a point of view that you can have. But I do think it speaks more specifically to the millennium. And because of the idea when it says he will teach us of his ways and all that. Just because I've never been able to get it out of my head by looking at certain passages like Isaiah 29 and also just various little hints from whether it's Jesus or the other prophets. I just get this sense that the millennium, it contains people who are unredeemed and who need to learn. Another says that, what was it? The days are coming when you will not say, where is it? Oh, I'm going to look it up. I don't want to try to... Sometimes I get annoyed trying to guess where the verse I want is, so I'm going to just look it up using Bible Collection. Here, I'll put it up on screen so you can see what I'm doing. But for the most part, there we go. I'm going to bring up their search window. Alright, so what was I looking for? A particular verse. Of course, I forgot. Oh, yeah. Know the Lord, water as the waters fill the sea. Well, let's try waters fill sea. It's in Isaiah as far as I think it's in. I shouldn't say that before I look unless I know, right? Waters fill sea. Okay, I didn't even have to search for the phrase. It's Habakkuk 2. Like in Habakkuk 2, it says, go back to verse 13. Oh, there you go. Verse 14. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. That's not the verse I wanted. Waters cover sea. Let's just say waters cover. The waters cover the sea, and in that day, no. Waters cover. There we go. That's a little more. Get a little more results there. It should be an Isaiah reference, I thought. Let's see. Yeah, I was thinking of Isaiah 11. They shall not. Yeah. Because this is the one. Yeah. Where it talks about the wolf lying down with the lamb, the cow and the bear feeding, the suckling child shall play on the hole of the asp. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain. For the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea.